and go live. Bam, Randy. I'm getting
live.
I'm almost better at this. Let me see. I could get my talking points, my video. So, hey everybody, this is Teddy Burriss. You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. And Randy, I'm getting better at the buttons, buddy.
All right.
Hey, y'all, Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy is sponsored by the elder law firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. If you, I got to hit the share button, don't I, Randy? So let me do this again. Boom, 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 boom. Hey everybody, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Lisa, stop laughing at me. We're this show is sponsored in part by the elder law firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. If you have elderly folks in your life who are thinking about estate planning, thinking about retirement planning, you need to reach out to the elder law firm in Greensboro, North Carolina, and have a conversation with them and let them know that Randy told you to call them. So I guarantee you they can help you out. So boom, we're back, Randy. I'm recording, I'm live. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Enjoying a little bit of sunshine, a little breezy outside. So it's a welcome change. I had the doors in the man cave open this morning. I had a business meeting and I heard this sound that went, and I thought, oh man, what's that? And it was a pressure washer right next door to me. So I had to shut the doors and get everything.
Cleaning the man cave?
They clean in the man cave. A clean man cave is a happy man cave, as I will always say, I guess, at least just now thought about it. So there's that. But Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, director for our professional center here in Winston-Salem. We work by appointment. Happy to help you if you're a recent college grad, or maybe your kid has just moved back into your basement and it's time to let them see the world from an employed standpoint. Have them reach out, or if you're mid-career, wherever you are in your walk, Goodwill's been around forever. But a lot of times people don't associate Goodwill with helping professionals. And so I'm here to tell you that we've been doing it for a long time and pretty good at it, if I do say so myself. And so reach out to me. Happy to help you. Teddy, you've already introduced yourself. We have two guests today who actually are kind of down the hall from me when I'm at Goodwill. So we have Lisa Lamb and also Justin Tanks. Both are with NCWorks, but you guys do different jobs and you're here to talk about different but related topics. So before we get into that, Teddy, you've got some housekeeping stuff, don't you?
I do, man. I got housekeeping to do. So, hey, we got, what is it? We're 17,000 people on the show today. And for me to manage all of this effectively, I would really request if you have any conversation, any questions, thoughts, ideas, use the chat box. And by the way, engage with our audience and engage with our special guests. We want to work them. We pay them an exorbitant amount of money to show up. We want to work them hard. So you got to come up with some really powerful questions for them so we can get our money's worth out of them showing up. So I'll monitor the chat. If you have something impactful, I'll share it. Randy, back to you, buddy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'll do a kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. Then I'll introduce briefly each of you, and you can go in a little more detail about you and what your role is there. So NCWorks, I mean, they don't want to be called the unemployment office, and I get that, right? But for every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, they're the unemployment office. They are. I lost my job. What do? I have to go file. They're going to help me, that kind of thing. So that's what these guys are here about. And so we're going to talk about what I'll call both sides of this. If I'm a person looking for a job, let's say I've been laid off, what does the state do? What are the programs available? What are some of what I'll call, I guess, the case management processes that I can expect to go through as I'm going through that process to try to land a new job? And then on the flip side, we've all heard about how hard it is for companies to find and retain workers. So what about employers? What does the state do to support them if they're struggling to hire people, or in some cases still you're seeing layoffs? And what does the state provide in those areas? So again, this whichever side of the fence you're on, employer or employee, we've got something for you today, hopefully. So let me leave it at that. And at this point, let's introduce, I guess we'll start with Lisa. Introduce yourself and then let's move to Justin and fill us in on who you are and what you do there.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Lisa Flam. As Randy said, I'm the next door neighbor just down the hall. The Forsyth NCWorks Career Center is located inside of Goodwill Industries, and I work as the assistant center manager, and it's just oversight of programs and staff, boots on the ground when needed. So
you're on the people side, right?
I'm on the people side.
You're on the worker side. Hey, I need a job side. So Justin Tanks, you were also down the hall, but Teddy, you've got a finger in the air.
And Randy,
yeah,
Lisa is one of these special guests that's just slightly uberly special. I mean, she's been here 4 times.
Yeah, she's a glutton for punishment if ever there was one.
She's making more money off of us than anybody else is. She's been here 4 times.
Well, the cool thing, and you're on with Mike Fenley, who works for the Senator Burr's office, and he was in to talk about the federal level. You're in to talk about the state level. But when COVID hit the fan, I mean, poop hit the fan, and everybody and their brother was out of a job. So you guys were up to your eyeballs in processing claims and all of that. But thank goodness for you guys coming on the show to allow folks to understand what to expect. I mean, that was just a hellacious time for everybody. So, and again, you've been back a couple, 3 other times to kind of give us updates. So now you're not in the same sense of urgency, I suppose. We're not really seeing the mass layoffs that we did. But again, thank you, Lisa, for being on. And Justin, this is your first time, so we will go gently on you. So we'll take it a little easier on, not too easy.
Okay.
So she deals on the people side, right? So she's talking about job hunter folks. So I assume you're on the company side.
I'm on the company side.
Right.
So my job as a career advisor is to meet with employers, ranging from small employers all the way to major industry employers, and they come to me for advice. Looking for work. Basically do a lot of things. We have an NCWorks database that all employers are signed up in, and part of that process is for them is to sign up, and they have access to start reviewing resumes for candidates that use NCWorks, and on top of using our resources to help them find the best candidate for the positions. So I work with them, they come to me, and I come to them.
So you're proactively knocking on doors too to say, hey,
correct.
Do you have any needs, and have you thought of posting jobs on NCWorks?
Right.
That kind of a thing. So you're trying to raise awareness, but then when the red light goes on and they say, oh no, I've got problems, you're also their point person for that then too.
The point person. So, and
Gotcha.
those problems may, engage from, I may have a candidate who's not really too qualified, but I like their spirit. So then I can offer other services like on-the-job training services in connection with the PTRC to get them signed up with that. So they can hire the employer and we can do on-the-job training. And for those employers, they get a percentage back for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. And if they're professionals, then you can I know this guy down the hall, he does really good work with professionals. So there's always that. Teddy, you've got a question, I think, from our attendees.
Justin, you're using an acronym, dude. You need to tell our audience what is a PTRC.
Yep.
PTRC is a Piedmont Tri Regional Council. That's the Workforce Development Board for Forsyth, Davie, and the surrounding counties around here. And the OJT is the on-the-job training.
Got
it. Okay, so we got that straight. Lisa, I'll hold you off for just a moment. Justin, there always comes the why question. We're 8 minutes in, so I know I'm late with that, but I'm always curious. Was it a single instance, a series of events? What was it that has kind of given you that impetus to say, hey, you know what? I'm really in a good role here. I really like what I do, and I'm excited about it.
It was a series of events.
Yeah.
I moved here in 2006, and I started as a financial aid rep with Strayer. That evolved into an admissions rep with another company. Then that evolved into becoming a program director of the business school at Virginia College. Then that rolled into me working with workforce development boards while I was a program director, helping my students find jobs. So once that school closed, I just made the transition over to the city side and worked for Care as a career advisor on the contract side. Then that rolled over into me working for the state. So
easy for you to say, right? Well, I'm glad you're here, and I see things in the background there. So those little hobbies that you have, I see colorful stuff in the background. So you can turn around and see what is that anyway? Well, that's not your cube though.
Cubicle, but I do have a lot of hobbies and stuff. I love to collect comic books. And,
really? Okay.
Yes, I am a cinephile. I watch movies all the time with my parents.
Did you say
So-
cinephile? I thought he said something else. I apologize. So it didn't. My hearing is not as
That's
good
okay.
anymore.
And
So
I
you,
also-
you dig movies and comic books. So you're all about pop culture and a lot of that kind of stuff. So there'll be a quiz later, Teddy, I think,
Okay.
right? Will
I'm
there be
paying
a quiz?
attention, man.
You working on that? Lisa, what's your why? You've been at this a while. What's your why?
I have, in October, it will be 20 years.
Yeah.
with this
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah.
I
Straight
did
out of high school.
Do what?
Straight out of high school.
Pretty much. And this is not a career somebody says they just want to fall into. But I happen to be able to obtain employment, and I just like helping the people, with where they're at, meeting them where they're at, whether that be with job search or retraining. It's just a very fulfilling job, and I like working with the public, interacting with the public. So getting that message on Facebook 10 years later, when you help someone in school and they tell you how down they were in their career, and you helping them with their training and so forth, it's just very rewarding, very fulfilling. So
It is. Yeah.
I do enjoy it.
It is rare. 20 years with one organization that really says something. So hats off to both of you. I appreciate you coming by. So let's talk the people side first off. All right. So I just got laid off. Teddy Burriss Limited, is it? Anyway, just laid me off. So what do I do? Walk me through that, and what are some things I can anticipate or expect, or what are some roadblocks I may encounter along the way? Is that kind of where you're headed with this thing, Lisa, to be able to talk through?
Yeah, a little
Help
bit.
me.
Sure.
Well, you talk about what you want to talk about. You talk. You go with what you want to talk about. Then let's do that.
Sure. Well, typically, a
right.
customer's first point of contact with us is because they are needing to file for and receive unemployment benefits. And even though we're not technically the unemployment office anymore, we are a resource for those individuals who need assistance. Unemployment is all self-directed online nowadays. But again, we have a computer lab that customers are more than welcome to come in, and we're a resource for them to help them get that claim filed. But while they're here, hey, let us tell you what else NCWorks can do for you. We're not just the unemployment office. There are career assessments, there's career guidance, there's resume and cover letter preparation, of course, job search assistance, training and educational programs. There's so much more than NCWorks has to offer individuals. And once a person starts receiving the unemployment benefits, they are required to attend a mandatory appointment. Now, those appointments are virtual. And if I had a nickel for every time I heard a customer say, wow, I didn't know you guys did all that. So it's about making customers aware, and we've got to do that as soon as they hit our door to let them know what we can do for them.
So clarify, because I'm old, all right? So I've heard the unemployment office forever. I mean, when I lived in Ohio, it was the unemployment office. All right. So I get it. Guys don't want to be called that. So what is it? The online component of filing for unemployment? Is that, I guess, what still remains as the unemployment office, even though it's a website?
So back, oh my gosh, was this 2003, 4? I may be way ahead. I can't remember.
Okay.
We used to be the Employment Security Commission, ESC.
Mm-hmm.
And during a prior governor's tenure, that agency was basically dissolved. And DES, which is Division of Employment Security, and DWS, which is Division of Workforce Solutions, was created. Unemployment went on this side of the house. And jobs and retraining went to this side. We've gone through several different rebrandings. We've been workforce centers, we've been employment offices, but the current brand today is the NCWorks Career Center.
Mm-hmm. So somebody loses their job, they go online first to apply.
So the application, again, most of the time your customers are going to come into the office because they still think there used to be days where a customer would come in and they would sit down at a desk and we would file their claim. That's what I did starting out with the agency. I was a claim processor, and we would file that claim from start to finish there in the local centers. Unfortunately, that's no more. All the claims are done through the call center and through online services now.
Mm-hmm. So they go online and they get approved. then they come back to you. Because if they come to you in the first place, what do you just say? Here's a computer, knock yourself out, fill out your claim. And, how do you deal with that? What if I lose my job? What do I do first?
Well, the old timers like us who've been with the agency for so many years, that's very hard for us to do. Here's a computer, good luck, best wishes to you. And the staff that are located within this center have that same mentality. We're not just going to turn them loose.
Yeah. We're
going to be there to guide them and answer their questions for them. We can't advise like how to file the claim. That is strictly a DES function. But again, we're there to guide the customer and help them walk through to get that claim successfully filed. That is their first and foremost on their brain when they come through the doors, if that's what they're needing. But again, once that is successfully done, hey, well, let me tell you what else NCWorks can do for you. We give them like an orientation to the center.
So then what's the turnaround time? Let's say I go on the computer and you guys kind of hold my hand and help me to navigate, because a lot of guys aren't comfortable with computers. And so I appreciate that you want to help them or facilitate filing. What kind of turnaround time is it typically? Is it instantaneous, or do they have to make an appointment to come back to get help, or what's that next step look like?
It's typically, you're looking at, depending on why they were separated from their employer, are there any other availability issues, et cetera, 2 to 4+ weeks at least in most cases.
So in the meantime, if they haven't technically qualified to receive unemployment benefits, are they still able to access your center to get? Yeah, and that's kind of, because what if it gets denied? I mean, they still need a new job, so they can still come back. They don't have to wait until they get approved or rejected.
Right. And that's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. We can assist anyone if you're working, if you're not working, if you're filing unemployment, if you're not filing unemployment. Our doors are open to anyone and everyone who thinks that they may benefit from the services that we offer them.
Are there any restrictions on the number of times they can hang out there, or is there any time limit or anything?
You can even bounce between offices because the NCWorks brand, the services are consistent, just how they flow may be a little different. So what service I offer here in Forsyth will be the same as Surrey, Guilford, at the East Coast. Again, just the process may be different, but the end result is still the same.
Hey, so Lisa, Cynthia asked this question: should they make an appointment to meet someone in NCWorks?
Our office is walk-in availability. During COVID, it was appointments were preferred. Anyone is more than welcome. I do advise that you look on ncworks.gov. You can find the nearest NCWorks office nearest you by putting in your zip code or your city, and it tells you the days and hours and the preferred method, whether appointments are required or preferred, but walk-ins are available.
So here's one more big, might be a bigger question than we had the ability to tackle today.
Okay.
How is NCWorks success measured?
So we have performance measures set forth by our Workforce Development Board. And there are even DOL, Department of Labor, performance measures that must be met. Those are measured and weighed more on a state level for the NCWorks Career Centers as a whole. But we are giving performance measures that we are asked to meet on a yearly or quarterly basis. In regards to how many placements, meaning how many people we help found jobs, how many services are provided to employers and so forth. Because part of our money is federally funded. Well, most of it is funded through the government, and they're not just they want to make sure they're getting their bang for their buck. So there are performance measures we have to meet to satisfy. And if they like what we do, we get more money next year.
You get that 1% raise coming your way, like it or not, Hey, talking with Lisa Lamb and Justin Tanks with NCWorks, and they're based in Forsyth County, which is Winston-Salem area. But I suspect a lot of what you do is pretty similar to other counties throughout the state, I would assume, right? Because it's state government. Got a question too for you, I guess, from a what's changed standpoint. And then from here, we'll move on to talk with Justin about businesses, but numbers wise, headcount wise, I mean, it was a bloodbath 2 years ago. I mean, everybody lost their job except Teddy and me. well, we weren't making any money, but we were having a heck of a time.
And we're
So-
not federally funded either.
We're not, no, but we don't accept federal dollars. So sorry, we don't accept your money.
So stop calling.
Stop calling. Hey, but headcount has to have dropped because unemployment is so small. And so what kind of trends have you seen here lately? And maybe we can go into more detail later in the show, but I want to get Justin in here in a minute. So is it dropped off half by half by 3/4?
I actually looked this morning. I figured this question was going to come up. So for Forsyth, the latest figures are out for March, and I'm just going to throw a percentage at you. The unemployment rate is 3.5% for March. During COVID, in the midst of 2020, I think the highest, Justin, back me up, I think statewide, it was 15, 16, 17% during COVID.
Oh, 16, 17%. Yep.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. The figures have drastically dropped. There are a few, you might actually want to double that, 3.5 a little bit, the way they calculate the unemployment rate. So
That was my question.
I knew it was.
Yeah. The U3 and how do we, so let's hold that thought for later. Let's
Okay.
hold that thought for later. And again, we're not looking to get into politics and, a lot of the legislative, this, that, and the other. And there's goodness, we could talk for hours, I'm sure, about that. But
Remember
just from a general standpoint, so it looks like we're at 3.5, where using that same metrics that you're using today, it was about 16% at the height of, or the beginning of COVID. So it's dropped off a good bit. Justin Tanks. Justin, first time on the show for you, and you haven't left yet. So so we'll take that as a win. You're with NCWorks, but your focus is a bit different. You're more on the business side, right?
Right.
So walk me through a day in the life. What are you all about here? Because businesses have a lot of needs. So what are your primary focuses?
My primary focus is basically working with employers. I work mostly with Forsyth and in Davie County. I go to Moxville twice a week to work with employers there. So I'm connected with the Moxville Chamber of Commerce, as well as Davidson Community College there too. So a day in the life for me is coming in, upload my computer, and the first thing I do is look to see if we had any new employers sign into NCWorks, meaning they have applied for an application to be an employer to post jobs. Then what I do is I go ahead and contact the contact person, get all the information, and I start interviewing them right then and there about what the type of needs what type of jobs they're looking to post. And once we get into that, then I'll ask some deeper questions like, what's your pay salary? What's the responsibilities you want for your job seeker to have, so I can get more of an understanding of what they're looking for. Then after that, any openings that are open or there, I send them directly to my team to let them know, hey, there's a job for a CNA. CNA seems to be a real big field that needs to be filled right now due to COVID. So I'm working with a lot of hospitals, a lot of CNA agencies, helping them to understand that now that COVID is over, one of the biggest discrepancies I'm seeing, that pre-COVID, it was $11, $13 an hour, maybe $10 an hour. Now CNAs are getting paid more than $14, $15, $16 an hour because the need is there.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Supply
I know
and demand, so
Goodwill does a lot of skills training,
right.
and to include CNAs. So, but we're dropping the bucket compared to the number of CNAs that are needed, across the area, I'm sure. So there's a need out there. So does the state provide money for training for CNAs? Do they help kind of grow their own, so to speak? Or how do you, I use the term, put butts in seats? I mean, how do you match the need with the talent pool that might be out there?
That's interesting, because you can go through the WIOA program to get sign up into a CNA class.
Right.
But what I'm seeing as a trend with a lot of job seekers is that they want to get out of the CNA field and return back to school to either get an associate's, a bachelor's, or a master's degree. So them being former CNAs, now they want to go back and try to get their nursing license, go try to become an RN, or if they do want to continue with CNAs, they're starting to transfer over into customer service roles where you can work home from remote with an Anthem or a Blue Cross or Blue Shield, where their pay is increasing by like $4 or $5, but they don't have the risk to be exposed to COVID. That's one thing that I'm starting to notice as a trend with a lot of some of the job seekers and employers.
Yeah. So in what you've described so far is what I'd call reactive. In other words, you go, you sign on your computer when you're done checking your Facebook and LinkedIn and everything else, then you get to work, right? And I get that.
Yeah, I'm reactive.
I slipped in there, but it's reactive. In other words, they're going, hey, we need some help here. But that's only part of the picture too, I think. I mean, because I think you're out there as, proactively, aren't you? And talking to businesses and seeing what their needs might be. Right. Because they may not even know that you guys are a resource. I mean, I'm assuming that
there's some companies that don't know. I mean, there's some companies, there's a company I work with, they specialize in helping veterans.
Okay.
So we got them signed on to NCWorks. So now, working with our veterans team, now we'll be able to refer jobs to them in a lot of fields that veterans are used to, especially like a lot of logistics, things of that nature. So a lot of companies come here, they just don't know that we're out here. So I'm doing a combination of both.
I bet that, that's a challenge that we have at Goodwill too. At least I know in my program with the professional center is, and you guys had mentioned, I don't know if it was in our pre-show at 11:55 or after we went live, but we have a t-shirt at Goodwill. It says, I had no idea. I mean, that's what it says on the front. I had no idea. And I get the vibe that you guys run into that same comment from time to time. I had no idea you guys do all this stuff.
Yeah. That's interesting, Randy. I've known Lisa for years. I've known NCWorks and what that one side of the organization for years. I had no freaking idea Justin existed. And so if I don't know it, I'm no different than anybody else. I can imagine there are lots of organizations out there that don't know that you're a resource for them. So, and is it all pretty much free too? I imagine it's state, so it's paid by our tax dollars. So it's not a cost, like you're not a recruiting firm that's going to command a fee for any of your services, right? Okay. Lisa,
we also offer. We just had a job fair recently too. So we do job fairs outside because of the COVID restrictions, but we offer free job fairs for employers to come in on site and talk to employers. There's no charge. We do it virtual and we can do it with a live person. So
Lisa, you had your hand up there a minute ago. Was there something you wanted to add?
I don't remember what it was now.
I hate when that happens.
But just to piggyback, Justin is our boots on the ground with employers. He's done a great job of building relationships with the employers in the multiple counties that we serve. Forsyth and Davie are his primary duty stations, so to speak. But just, making employers aware, because employers are our customers too. Employers are definitely our customers too, because if we don't have jobs to refer, job seekers to, then so employers are our customers, our NCWorks customers as well, and we are here for them as well.
So this is a good conversation. You're sparking the audience to really have some good questions. I'm going to go with the question that Tammy just asked. Was there a URL? Is there a website? Is there somewhere where we can find out more? People can find out more about the job fairs that you have.
Sure. We like to use our social media website first and foremost, NCWorks Career Center of Forsyth County. And then we're also on LinkedIn at NCWorks Triad. But also on the NCWorks website, there is a calendar, and you can pull up a calendar. And when we recently had our outdoor hiring event in April, it had all the details from that event, like who the employers were, dates, times, of course, etc. So
Teddy, it's about halfway past the hour. We'll take the half-hour break, and then during our next few minutes, maybe Teddy, you can, or Lisa, Justin, you can type in the chat the URL so that attendees can see it, and then Teddy can also grab it later and put it in the show notes that we push out to the millions that view this. So excellent. Teddy, we're halfway through.
Hundreds of thousands, Randy.
Hundreds of thousands. Well, yeah, that's right. Head count's down for them. It's down for us too. I'll go with that.
This is Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. And for those who don't know, I'm Teddy and my buddy Randy, and our special guests today are Lisa Lamb and Justin Tanks of NCWorks. Our show is sponsored in part by the Elder Law Firm. We really appreciate their help. I love this phrase, who's important to you and how you plan to honor their responsibilities can also be important to the Elder Law Firm. If you need any help with helping folks with their right estate planning, with elder care planning, reach out to the Elder Law Firm in Greensboro, North Carolina, or elderlawfirm.com. Their phone number is 336-396-4551. And again, let them know that Randy told you to call them. Randy, back to you, buddy.
Do as I say.
Yeah.
Simon says, do it. Todd has a question. The question is, do recruiters access your information, or do you work with recruiters? How does that? Because I mean, they're going to collect a fee if they make the placement. So can a recruiter call and place, let's say, job openings with you guys, or how does that work?
I work with a lot of recruiters from staffing agencies and from other outside agencies, third-party agencies too. So a recruiter has to sign up on the site, and I'll give them an employer information that they can do to sign up. Once they're signed up and I verify their information, they'll post their jobs. They have access to review resumes and look at candidates. And then if it's something that I may have working with the case managers here with Goodwill and NCWorks, then I can start referring people to apply for those jobs via the website.
There's and I live this stuff. I mean, I help job hunters, but and I may not be the smartest tool in the shed here, but I mean, it's a mess. If I'm a job hunter, where do I go to get help? Who do I talk to? Same thing if I needed social services. I may need housing help. I may need medical help. I may need whatever. And is there and maybe you are it for businesses that just say, I don't even know what I need. I don't know where to go for help. Are you kind of that point person for that? And who on the people side, if not Lisa, is there a person that can kind of be, calm people down and say, okay, go do this, do that, do this?
I will be the point person for that. Yeah. And not only do I, recommend the NCWorks services, but I connect them with the Workforce Development Board. So it may be an employer that may be interested on the job training, and that could be a solution to one of their problems, saying, hey, I'm finding people, but I'm finding qualified candidates, but they're not knowledgeable as we want them to. So then I can say, hey, we can connect you over to the PTRC, Piedmont Triad Regional Council, and ask them to, sponsor on the job training for that particular employer. So
is this PTRC? Because they were on the show, I don't know, a year ago.
Maybe.
So are they? What's their role? Are they more of the education and training component of this thing, or where do they come into the mix?
Yeah, Lisa, you want to go ahead and?
Well, with PTRC, they receive funding from NCWorks to issue and manage and administer the WIA funds, and they have contracted out to Goodwill. So like I was saying before the show went live, I think there's an umbrella, and you've got PTRC at the very top of that umbrella, on very top of the hierarchy. And then you've got your NCWorks career centers. And basically your NCWorks career centers are governed by your local workforce development boards, our being the Piedmont Triad region.
Okay.
So, but I wanted to mention the question or a comment was posed about employers using NCWorks. They have to be vetted. They have to have an employer account number. They have to, we don't just let anyone register on NCWorks when it comes to the employer side of the house, like recruiters and so forth. Every job order that's listed in the system gets vetted. We make sure that, the correct verbiage is there. We make sure that no EO regulations like can only be brown-headed, green-eyed, 5'10", 120 pounds. We make sure that these employers and so forth are vetted within our system, within NCWorks.
And are those jobs, I'll call it reviewed or checked upon periodically to ensure that they're actually still open and available? Or how often is that done? I'll tell you, that's a complaint that I hear from job hunters is, the job's no longer available, or it was never available, and then it pops up again and again and again. And so people get frustrated because they feel like, is this real? Is
Right.
this job real? And so
Paul,
you're, yeah.
Yeah, part of our process is that when a recruiter or employer signs up, they have a expanded date that will the job order exist. So it's one of those things to where, and what I do proactively, I go and look at the job orders if I'm working with an employer, and I'll research the account like, hey, this job order is old, we need to renew this or we need to update it. So those things, but once an employer gets into the system, they set the marks for how long a job order can last, if it's just for 30 days, if it's just for 15 days, things of that nature. So,
So are you seeing then, Justin, more, I assume, more companies reaching out saying, hey, we can't find bodies here. I mean, we're really having a hard time.
Yep.
And then also, what about the related piece, which is, all right, we get them, but we lose them in the first 60 to 90 days because we're paying them 15 an hour. They just made 16 somewhere else. So we're out. How much of a problem are you seeing in terms of turnover? You can't retain these guys. Are you seeing that too? Help me understand how big a problem that is.
Seeing major turnover and industry, especially definitely customer service. I say that's one of the high turnover rates.
Right.
A lot of people get those jobs in between jobs. So I've noticed that even with COVID, the turnover rate in customer service was so high because of the risk of COVID. So what a lot of businesses have been doing now that can afford to, they automatically switch to remote, like I stated before. So you're starting to see some stay now with the remote piece in there. I would say a lot of healthcare, there's a large turnover. Some logistic companies, there should be a large turnover, but I'm also seeing an increase in the CDL market. So now a lot of companies start looking more for CDL drivers, which increases our awareness because now students at the community colleges are coming in and asking, hey, I want to get signed up for CDL training.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to work on now is start to have a direct relationship with the CDL trainer schools, because a lot of times those schools offer jobs for them after they graduate.
Mhm.
Some of them don't. So what companies are starting to do now is starting to hire people while they're still in CDL training and doing like an on-the-job training program once they graduate. So it's one of those things. So I get my CDL license. I work for this company. While I'm working for the company, I'm still getting trained, but at least I'm getting a salary. And that's also reflected in a lot what's going on with the community colleges, especially with Davis and Davy. They're starting to offer a lot of apprenticeship programs for people they're paying a great salary, they get full benefits, but part of that, part of that road now is they get to work for the employer for 2 to 3 years after they graduate. So that kind of keeps the retention going.
Yeah. Are you doing, or maybe I should open-ended question. What are you doing to educate, coach employers to do a better job of retention?
Pay is always a good one. I also believe that
you got that, Teddy. Pay's a good one, right?
I was going to offer kegerator might be a good idea.
My annual review is coming up any day now, I think. So just duly noted. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
but
actually, Randy, another good thing to discuss too is the Gen X, Millennial, Generation Y differences, right? So a lot of your millennials and Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer, we're traditional old school. I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna stay there for 10, 15, 20 years, try to retire. Now, the millennials or the Gen Ys, they're more into work-life balance. So a lot of times what employers tend to miss the boat on is that when you're hiring somebody in a different generation, they're going to be there for 5 years. So how do you keep that employer there? And that's when we work with the workforce development boards and do labor market research to let them know that, okay, if you have an employer or a job seeker that's 25, just out of college, they're going to be there till they're 30. So I would say your promotion cycle needs to increase because the cost of living is increasing, the cost of housing is increasing. So now they just have a different mindset when it comes to important bills and retirement. When you're 25 or 30, you're not really thinking about retirement like that. You're trying to get the new experiences. So what a lot of employers are offering now is focusing a lot more on programming, meaning that once I hire you, you're in a program that's going to last more than 2 or 3 years to get you to that next level. And I'm seeing that across the board. throughout all industries.
So if I'm hearing you right, then aside from the, hey, pay these guys more, they'll stick around,
Right.
but also promote them more quickly and have, I guess, what I would call closer communication. And
Right.
in all seriousness, Teddy, I know you and I joke all the time, but at Goodwill, we have, I think we call it an annual performance appraisal, right? And mine is, well, when I get done this show today, I'm going to fill out, I have to do my own appraisal, and then it goes on to my boss and the boss's boss, and then it comes back to me and all that. But, we do, it's our chance to demonstrate our value to the organization. And something that I've read, especially with younger workers, is don't wait for that annual review. Young people want a trophy. No, they want the immediate feedback.
Right.
Don't wait 6 months or a year. And then, there may be, and I'm not expecting a surprise. I've never had a surprise. I'm a good worker, that. But I mean, the point is that, what are we doing to keep these guys engaged so they'll stay? It's not all about money. You mentioned quality of life.
Right.
So what, flexibility, homework, that kind of thing? What are some other things you're coaching employers on to say, hey, you want to keep these guys? Here's some things you want to do. Yeah, Lisa, you had your hand up too.
So I think during COVID, people were
Right.
at home. They were forced to be at home. And during that process, they realized how much they loved it. And so that's a common, same. I mean, we were teleworking and I thought I'd hate it, but I loved it because, like you said, Randy, I think I got more done during the day. I didn't have the distractions that I do here when I'm in the office.
Yep.
But employers need to find that leveling playing field to see what they can allow. Can you allow work from home? Can you, and as Justin said earlier, you've got to learn how to cater. It's a different generation. It is a different generation of people coming into the workforce now. And we as career advisors and employers have to learn how to be able to provide those incentives, because it's not about the money. If it was about the money, employers wouldn't be complaining, about not being able to retain workers. So it's not just about money.
Hey, here's a piece of information that is fresh off the press, Justin and Lisa. Atrium Health, which is now Atrium Health Baptist Hospital, they just this moment announced they are merging with Advocate Aurora out of a Midwest US company.
Wow.
Now, Atrium Health is a big presence in the Triad. Davie, which is right, their hospital, which is right across the street from my house, Justin, and downtown Winston. So there will be a lot of activity going on over the next year or so in that space as well, which probably could hit you.
Oh yeah.
Or hit Lisa's office.
Just think how big their business cards are going to get now. If you thought Atrium Baptist, can now you add this Advocate Aurora on there, you might as well walk around with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. This is where I work. You want my card? Teddy, when's the last time you were handing out business cards?
Randy, I'm not in my home office right now, but in my home office, I have 4 brand new boxes, dude. They've been there for 2.5 years.
Just waiting to be given out. Yeah. So, isn't that something how things have changed?
I'm going to use them for wallpaper, Randy.
So you mentioned earlier, Justin, about job fairs, and they've kind of moved outside now, thanks to, COVID kind of. Well, actually, no, I would think it'd be the opposite, because when COVID was, kicking, everything was outdoors if you did anything. Right. But now the weather's nice, so that's a good thing. Are you finding an uptick in employers and candidates, or one or the other? What's that kind of look like for you?
I'm finding an uptick in employers that are wanting job fairs.
Right.
I'm also finding an uptick in working with other NCWorks agencies and other workforce development boards, is that the virtual career fair seems to be a big thing now, meaning that what's going on is that now, instead of me having a traditional job fair where I come speak to you, shake your hand, I give you my resume, now there's chat rooms available for some time that people can visit in and out, and they'll meet with an employer, share their resume, still have that same conversation. Then afterwards, the employer will set up another interview process for them to go through. So that seems to be an uptick now I was just involved with the healthcare one in April, a couple of weeks before we had our job fair, and that was the situation that was going on, is that regardless of industry, it's just getting that virtual meeting, that virtual understanding, getting to know the job seeker, getting their resume first, and then the employer would invite them over to apply for the job. So,
Randy, you remember those days, man, when we used to go help candidates at job fairs?
I remember for years, Goodwill would host a massive job fair at the Joel Coliseum right next door.
Yeah,
4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people.
Yeah, I used to attend those. I used to go to those. Yeah,
Tons. And Teddy, you and I remember Damien Burkle and others would come out, and we would have classrooms off to the side. Here's a resume. Here's what you do or don't do, and how you behave, and all those things. But do you think those days are gone, where you see that the big ones where you get the 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people, or are you seeing more of what Goodwill does? Which may be a more focused job fair on, let's say, skilled manufacturing or aerospace, or they may do a healthcare job fair versus, come on.
Everybody.
Right. Yeah. I think it kind of depends on the industry and when the industry is going. I think the virtual career fairs work more for people who want to work virtually, who want to work remote.
Yeah.
But when it comes to skilled labor, I still think there is a need for them to meet in person to understand the job. I know that I'm working with Dunlap Tires. And what we're going to do there is have a visitation day to where NCWorks is going to be there to help register people, but also they're going to start giving plant tours to the job seekers, so they can see what they're actually getting into before they actually sign up for the job.
So Justin, at a Dunlop Tire plant tour, instead of giving out free t-shirts, can they give out 15-inch tires for free?
If they got them, I mean, we can work on it, but I mean, and I'm just using Dunlap as an example. What I'm seeing in Moxville too, because I've also talked to Reeb in Moxville, and they're thinking about doing the same thing too. So it's not just a job fair now. People want to see, okay, what am I actually going to be doing day in and day out? What's the environment going to be like? What do I need to wear? Tennis shoes? Can I wear Timberlands? What could I wear? So I think you might see an uptick in that with a lot of employers doing those on a more frequent basis, instead of having one open, like an open day. They might do it every other week. Like, okay, this week we're gonna, do that. So that's one thing that
I wanted to ask you, what you got?
Sorry, I was just gonna say one thing about the virtual job fairs. That's those employers are doing that innovative thinking, because today's generation, they want to be doing this right here. I'm old school. I want face-to-face. I want to come in. I want to meet. But today's generation, I mean, you can make your doctor's appointments on your phone now without having to actually physically talk to anyone.
Right.
And that's today's generation. That's what they want. So the virtual job fairs, Justin's done a few of those in partnership with another workforce development board. And the interaction is amazing. It is very amazing to me.
Interesting. Hey, one of the things that all companies are struggling with, or most of them, are finding workers and retaining them. And one thing that Goodwill preaches, and I think it's very smart, and I see it in a lot of places, is, okay, if you're an employer, have you considered folks who have some level of disability, or maybe some level of criminal background, or may have had a longer gap of unemployment, or just what I'll call the non-traditional, or in a tight market where you can get an MBA to bag groceries, great, knock yourself out, right? But you're not going to get that today,
right?
And so, how receptive have companies been, and how much do you kind of say, hey guys, you can't stay with the old way, like Lisa was saying, everybody's doing this these days,
right?
How receptive have companies been to saying, okay, you know what, we need to rethink this and look at the available talent pool that maybe we've been bypassing all these last years?
Yeah, definitely seeing an uptick in justice served. A lot of companies who are originally not open to justice served participants are really starting to be open to the justice served participants. There's certain, depending on the level of responsibilities, there's certain things they do overlook, and certain things they can't. So, but it's good to know that employers are starting to be open with that. As far as disabilities, I have worked with a lot of rope rehabs centers, and with them, they're starting to see an uptick in employers wanting to give those people who may have those certain things a chance. And it may be even a smaller. They might even start them off part-time, 20 hours a week, and see how they go. Then they move them up to 30 hours a week, and then they're moving up to 40 hours a week. So you're starting to see that a lot too.
So question, Aaron, I have a feeling you know who Aaron is, Justin, on the show. She's talking
Okay.
all about NCWorks. So she's sharing lots of good insights. She said, she asked basically this question, is there a thing called work opportunity tax credits and bonding?
Now that is something I know from our level. I know that you will have to probably work with the guild, whatever workforce development board. They have the information about the taxes and the bonding.
Okay.
So I think in my 20 years, I've actually assisted with the WOTC credit maybe twice. But the federal bonding actually protects employers if they do hire those justice involved individuals. And there's even a tax credit employers can receive. And it's not just for the justice involved. It could be, right. I think there's 6 or 7 different categories as to what the worker opportunity tax credit is.
Got it.
You know, we can give you the information and everything. We'll be glad to do that for you. So, but I'm interested as to who this Erin is, because she's piped in a lot and she's mentioned a lot of good information and everything. Again, it's those services that employers and job seekers
We'll find her
available.
We'll look her up on LinkedIn. We'll find her. We have ways. Hey, on behalf of all senior citizens out there, me being one of them, and Teddy's approaching that age. He's got a few years to go before he gets there. We talk about, the people who have some level of disability. They may have been involved in criminal justice, blah, 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 all that stuff. What about older guys, right? And especially, Justin, you were talking about, hey, those older workers are more likely to stay longer. So if somebody's in, let's say their 50s or even in their early 60s, they're more likely to stay longer at a company than the company hiring their son or granddaughter, if you know what I'm saying, right? So mindset, are you kind of working with these business, say, hire guys that look like Teddy and Randy and that kind of stuff? And
Lisa, did you want me to answer this, or because I saw your finger grow up? I didn't know.
Well, I just wanted to mention, Erin says she's with rehab. Hi, Erin. So, thank you. So with all those, we call them special populations that you just rattled off. We've got, we serve those special populations. We serve the veterans. We serve young adults with our Next Gen program that's operated within the NCWorks. The justice involved, agricultural workers, limited English speaking customers.
Yep.
We are accessible to all of those individuals. And we do have resources. The thing with NCWorks Career Centers is we're boots on the ground with partners in our community. Like we're partners with Aaron, Folk Rehab, Department of Social Services.
Yep.
So we help you with your unemployment, but if you don't know how you're gonna make your house payment next month, we're well-versed in the community. We operate with multiple partners. If we don't have the answer, we're going to refer you to someone who can help you get that, and then vice versa. And that's what it takes. It takes a village to raise, so just being aware of who our partners are and the services that they can provide is very important part of our job.
Teddy, unless there's a last minute question, we're going to move on to the kind of the summary.
We got lots of engagement. Really
good.
Dean and Aaron, jumping in with engagement and conversations. Good stuff. So Randy, go ahead and do the summary, man.
Yeah, I always ask to try to summarize and come up with a couple 3 takeaways you'd like folks to have. And so I don't know which one of you want to go first, but whoever wants to dive in with your area of expertise, what are a couple 3 things you want folks to remember from today?
From the employer side, and I guess I can cover employers and for the job seeker side too, the importance of adaptability. In today's workforce, employers have to learn to be adaptable to what the job seeker wants and needs are, just as the job seeker needs to be adaptable to what the employer's wants and needs are. And that may even involve being some retraining on computer techniques. I've worked with a lot of customers on both ends that they didn't have a LinkedIn account. And to me, LinkedIn is just like Facebook. So it's one of those things to retrain to retrain the employers that, your best candidate may not be the old way of finding on an unemployment site. You will have to go to NCWorks to find someone with a specified skill set, or you may have to go to LinkedIn. So I think adaptability is very important for employers to understand, and as far as the job seekers. So I know that's one point I want to touch on.
Yep. So adaptability, and Lisa, I don't know whether you have anything you'd like to add to that. Other
Just
takeaways?
remember, that your NCWorks Career Centers were so much more than the unemployment office.
Yeah.
We are so much more, and that employers are our customers too. So,
Mhm.
and, again, if we don't have the answer, if we don't have the skill set, we know someone who does have that skill set.
Mhm.
I saw a question in here earlier about applying for the types of training programs and everything. It'd just be a matter of contacting the career centers. You may be suitable, but you may not be eligible, and vice versa. Dion says that, and I really like that. So there is a process, there is an enrollment process and everything. I just did want to, because that's a big part of what we do as well. So the retraining. So.
Yeah. So if I lose my job and I don't know where to turn, I can show up. I can wash up on the beach at your place, and you'll kind of give me some guidance with applying, and then from there, the job search, and it's kind of an all in one stop shop. And if you need to refer them out to me or whatever, and that's, so if you're watching, and you're unemployed or maybe you've already applied for, unemployment benefits, but you're still in a job hunt, don't forget to reach out to these guys. They're free, and
we will meet you where you're at.
We will meet you where you're at. So I think that about wraps up our summary. Teddy, I've got a quick story. I'll throw it to you, and then, and actually I need to mention our guest for next week.
Yeah, let's mention the guest
do that
next week.
Jonathan Schulteis joins us. I've known Jonathan for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years now, at least. And he can better explain what he does, but he's a numbers guy. So if you are a business owner and or an employer, and you're wondering about 401k or other financial vehicles that are out there, again, it's not all about compensation, about money, but what about some of the benefits? And so he's going to talk, and he's got a ton of statistics, but the cool thing is this guy can make statistics interesting, and anybody who can do that, he's a good buddy of mine, I'll tell you that. But he's going to talk about the Great Resignation, what has happened, what's happening now, and what are the trends going forward. And not just from the employee standpoint, the worker standpoint, but also from the employer. So it really kind of dovetails a bit with some of what you guys are talking about in terms of retention, acquisition of new talent. Where do we find them? What is going to appeal to workers, that kind of a thing. Quick story, Teddy, and it's this: adaptability. And I'll morph into something that our former CEO, Art Gibble, had mentioned many times, and I fully buy into it, and that is to be a lifelong learner. I think that's a phrase we hear a lot about. And so whether you want to call it adaptability to change, or you just want to call it, staying current with the technology and the other things that I need to be able to be competitive, whether I'm a job seeker or whether I'm an employer, if we stay stagnant and we don't grow and we don't continue to learn, we're going to get kicked to the curb. I mean, realistically, you still, if you want to go to Sears or Kmart, I think Kmart's got like what, 1 or 2 stores still open in the country.
West Coast.
Yeah. So just because you were successful in the glory days doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Look at Teddy, good example. I mean, you've morphed, you did a 180, right? Yeah. Anything you want to throw in before we head on out?
Yeah. Here, look, 1 minute before the end of the show.
Yep.
You know what you know. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you need to know. So find other resources. Figure out what PTCRC is. Figure out what the workforce development boards are. Figure out who Justin is and what he's all about, and Lisa, and find other resources you haven't discovered yet. That's how you're going to freaking create success. Rant over, Randy.
Yeah, find these guys on LinkedIn. They'll engage with you, and then they can steer you to other resources. But we thank you, Justin Tanks, for coming on, and Lisa Lamb, your fourth appearance. You are now tied for the world's record of appearances on Lunch with Randy and Teddy. So you can take that to the bank. And I'm not sure.
My resume, so.
I'm not sure what they'll do with it, but again, many thanks to both of you. A lot of information that we learned today, and we had some great engagement with our attendees. So again,
Yes,
hats
thank
off to
you
both
our
of you.
audience. Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Teddy. You have a great rest of your day, and
buddy.
I will catch you later.
All right.
Bye, folks.
Take care.
Bye,
folks.
gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.